It is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Vinod Deshmukh, who is a retired neurologist from Jacksonville, Florida. He was an associate professor of neurology at the University of Florida. He also had his own private practice at Flagler College in St. Augustine. He has published over 60 scientific articles, including a monograph on brain blood flow. His recent articles were on the neuroscience of meditation, the multi-stream self, Turiya, Prana, excuse me if I butcher this, please. Vedic psychology as a science of wisdom, secular wisdom, and the cognitive pause and unload. The CPU hypothesis of meditation and creativity. A chapter on the embodied brain, mind, and self is in print at present. His latest book is called The Astonishing Brain and Holistic Consciousness, Neuroscience and Vedanta Perspectives. It was published in 2012 by Nova Science Publishers of New York. I would also add, Dr. Deshmukh is a brilliant poet, a photographer, and I really encourage everybody to visit his website. It is really marvelous. So Dr. Deshmukh, it's a great pleasure to have you.
First of all, I want to bow down to this flame, which is a symbol of universal energy, awareness and being. We call it namaste. That means I bow down to that. And that is all of it. It is all-inclusive energy, awareness and being. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, good. First of all, I want to thank Megan Porter for inviting me, also Jerome and Donald for the newsletter. I appreciate that. This is like coming home for me. You know, this is a beautiful city. We have lived here on and off for many years. I practiced at Flagler Hospital for 11 years. And I have many good memories and many good friends in this town. This is a beautiful place to be together and enjoy our oneness of our being. I want to start with a short poem that I had written some time ago. Some of you may have handouts, but it doesn't matter. Just listen to the words and the meaning behind it. It's called Life Flows. Life flows with the energy of a breeze between leaves, a river between shores, a lightning between clouds, an ionic flow between living cells, and the dark energy between galaxies. Listen to the flow of life. Listen to the listener until your silence listens to silence. Be the infinite silence that is. See the flow of life. See the seer until the seer is the seen. Be the infinite space that is. Experience the flow of life. Experience the experiencer until the experiencer is the experience. Be the infinite being that is. Life is a multiform energy, awareness, being, this is the symbol of that. Life flows timelessly. One is life, and life is one. Live the one life that ever flows. Thank you. Now let me see if I can go to the slides and also point to some of the things. Can we? Okay. Are these lights are okay? Can these lights be turned off? Yeah, that's better. Is that better? Yeah, okay, good. I think we have to look at life, especially all living organisms, as a part of the whole existence. One of the errors in neuroscience and science in general is what is called reductionism. Reductionism means the whole existence is so complex that for practical reasons we reduce and select a very small piece of the puzzle, like just the brain, trying to study the brain and understand the mind. That has not worked for us. I mean, you understand the neurons and the neural connections and the neural circuits and neural networks, but that's not the big picture. So what is realized recently now in neuroscience is to take a broader view, that what I call the ecosystemic view or ecological view. And this process, embodied cognitive system, that means the information processing within the brain, occurs in a context, a broader context. Everything does not happen just in the brain itself. So, and there is each human being, each organism is an open system. That means there is a continuous flow of matter, energy and information between the environment and the living beings. There is brain interacts with the body interacts with the personal environment, and the personal environment interacts with the world, cosmos or the universe. The whole thing is like the biospheric ecosystem. So, let me go back. All living organisms are embedded in this existence, universal existence, with all these interactions at different levels of organization. And not only the solar energy, but also oh, it's good to see my grandchildren are coming here. Welcome. Thank you. So, life is influenced not only by the solar energy, but also there is some recent research that it is influenced by the ionosphere. Ionosphere is part of the atmosphere which is affected by the solar energy, as well as all the molecules that are released from the earth. So there is a constant interaction between ionosphere and the earth's surface, which creates a vibration called Schumann resonance. And this Schumann resonance its frequency is about 1 to 45 cycles per second, which is the same as the electrical activity of the brain. And there is a recent research that showed that studying the brain's electrical activity in, say, Canada and Italy, and at the same time studying the Schumann resonance, there is a good correlation between the two. So everything doesn't happen just in the head. We are connected with the whole biosphere and the solar system and even the cosmos, which continuously influences what happens in our brain, mind and ego continuously, which is scientifically shown. Now I want you to look at this picture just briefly and then close your eyes. I'm going to ask you some questions. So close your eyes and tell me how many people noticed a big elephant in the slide. See, I don't see any hand raised here. How many people noticed a beautiful red rose in the slide? Again, no hand. How many people noticed that this may be a sort of traffic scene somewhere? See, almost all hands. See, now you can open your eyes. See, you notice that this is you just glanced at the picture. You see, for a few seconds, just 1 second maybe. But that was enough for your brain to get the gist of it, what it is about, you see. And that is what I call awareness, basic awareness. And this awareness is also called scanning mode or the scanning awareness. It's like quickly looking at and getting a gist of it very quickly within fraction of a second. So that scanning mode or the matrix mode of attention or awareness, which is common to all of us and is very quick, it picks up dangers as well as opportunities just very quickly, rapidly, because sometimes it's a matter of survival. So it is always active, it's ever present, ever active, and it is sort of like a timeless well within. It springs forward, spontaneous. It is a spontaneous energy. Now I want you to look at this picture in greater detail and notice as many details as you can. I'll give you for a few more seconds. This picture I took from the 8th floor of the museum building in Washington, D.C. When we were visiting, we stayed there in the apartment. And it looked so interesting from the 8th floor, so much traffic. And I was just watching, and I noticed there are these 4 pedestrian crossings, so many cars, this man with the yellow jacket and the dog behind him. And some people are walking this way, some are walking that way, some people have a umbrella with a black and white umbrella, a red car here, the bicycle stand here, this man is walking this way. It looks like each person has a trajectory. Now if you take a picture a few seconds later, you will notice that the man has moved or the woman has moved few steps forward. We already know the trajectory. Now, this what I call the vector attention or the directed awareness. That you directed your awareness to a specific place and time and learnt more about it. But in this directed awareness, it's always limited. It's a small space, brief time, and then you ignore everything else. So, with awareness, the matrix mode, you get the big picture instantaneously. With vector mode, you get the specifics of a very small region of interest. So these are the 2 main modes of our attention and awareness. And that is very important. And we need to learn the skill of using both modes of awareness and attention. See, these are the vectors. For example, if a person A has moved from here to here, here to here, here to here, this becomes like the trajectory or the integral line of this attentional vector. And what each one of us is doing is paying attention to different things, this and that, or this and that, and we develop a story. This is how our life story is built up. Our memories are built up by paying attention to this or that. And whatever we pay attention to becomes part of our experience. If we don't pay attention to it, we don't know, we are not aware of it. So attention is the key, attention and awareness. Now, if you look at the brain and the mechanism, of course you need a good living brain, a good living body, healthy body, to be fully alive and aware and awake and attentive. You need that. Because brain processes all this conscious awareness. From what we know so far, in the brainstem, especially the midbrain and upper part of the pons, there are very specific selective neurons or nerve cells which generate certain neurotransmitters or chemicals. There are 5 or 6 major neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, glutamate, GABA. All these are very important neurotransmitters, and without that proper chemistry, the cortex or the brain cannot be awake or alive. If there is a stroke or a lesion in the brainstem, you may become unconscious. So, our basic arousal again depends on all the visceral activity, like heart, lungs, liver, all the kidneys, everything has to function properly to create the right chemistry, including oxygen, pH, sodium, potassium, all that. So, our basic arousal depends on brainstem. Then subcortex, which includes the limbic system, causes awareness. And then after awareness comes attention. Awareness always precedes attention. Awareness is always there. It's like the infinite sky or the infinite ocean that is always there. It is the background. And in fact, we share that. We share this moment. We share the present reality with that common ground, common awareness between us. But attention becomes specific. Attention is like an arrow that an individual points to a particular, just like I'm pointing this arrow here. And that creates the duality of subject and object. And when that experience has a memory, that memory then creates thinking, cognition, dreaming, all the thoughts that we have. So attention creates the duality of subject and object and the experience and the memory and thoughts and dreams and imaginations and all that. But in awareness, there is a spontaneity and freshness where there is no duality. It is a one indescribable reality or truth, and it is timeless and limitless. But we are not aware of it because we are so busy in our own thought processes, in our own mental processes. Now, I just want to point out some things here. For example, a simple event, if you interact with an event, so each event has a context and a consequence. If somebody is already upset and angry, and then if you throw another word at him, it's like the last straw on the camel's back. So every experience, every moment has a context. Both the personal context of your state of mind, what has just happened few minutes ago or few hours ago, or last few days, whatever it is, and then it has a consequence that can continue. Somebody can stay angry or sad or whatever for a few days, whatever it is. So depending on the event. So each event has a context and consequence. And this is an interesting thing. This is what is called individual ontogeny and autobiography. Now ontogeny, don't get scared by the big words. Ontogeny simply means the development and growth of an individual person, of an individual living organism. And autobiography means its life story of an individual, of you, me, individually. Phylogeny means the life story of the whole species, like all human beings, all monkeys, or all whatever the species is, elephants. So, what happens here, the time is going this way, this is the source or the beginning, and in our mind, A1 is the attention one, this is the first attention, second attention, third. So, and this is the plane of simultaneity or the now. This is the now moment. We all share the now moment at this moment, but we already have a baggage behind us, the context, that is our own mind, individual mind, with all the memories and thoughts and perceptions. Now, as I mentioned to you, phylogeny means the group's cultural history. All human history, all the history of the monkeys or elephants or rhinos, all human beings, each group activity has similar time scale. Sorry, let me go back. Yeah. And some of us are maybe just 1 year old, some are 5-year-old, some are 10-year-old, some are 40s, and some are in the 90s. So, but all of us have our own individual history. So if you check this, each one of us has an individual history. And this becomes the context for this common moment or the plane of simultaneity. So although we are sharing this moment as it is common to all of us, each one of us has a different context and a different trajectory, and therefore a different consequence. But this particular moment is the common ground. It's common to all of us, with its infinite potential and limitless and timeless energy, awareness and being. Now this is a busy slide, but I'll try to simplify it very simply. As I told you in the beginning, this is the scanning awareness or the matrix mode, and this is the selective attention or the vector mode. Now in this is like the sun within. It's like a floodlight. That is the awareness. And this awareness gets information not only from the body but also from outside and the memory. And this depends on a neurotransmitter called norepinephrine, has to function at a certain level. And then it quickly detects, is something new or old? See, when we meet somebody, we always ask, what's new? Sometimes I say, everything is new. Or some people say, oh, same old thing. So it depends on how attentive you are, how aware you are. But anyway, so we quickly decide whether something is new or old. If it is old or non-novel, then it becomes a passive experience. If it is something new or different, it becomes an active experience. And this active experience then creates its own experience, memory, and a recall, and this becomes like a circular activity that goes on and on and on. Because we have so many associations of that. Then we talk about it, we recall it, we remember it, it goes on and on. So that's the mental activity, that we are sort of preoccupied most of the time. Except for few moments during meditation, you may become free of this activity. In fact, the purpose of meditation is to become free of this activity, at least for a short period of time, and appreciate this limitless and timeless energy awareness being within all of us, which is common to all of us. Now, there are two types of attention. One is global and local or focal. Global is the first one I showed you, like the awareness, the whole big picture. And the local is the small details. And here, this is the standard diagram we use called the complex figure. This rectangle is one of the global features. These squares are sort of global features. This hypotenuse is a global feature. But these two dots is a local detail. This circle is a local. This cross is a local detail. These lines, this arrow. And what is interesting is that the brain specializes in local and global feature processing. Right cerebral hemisphere, for instance, specializes in processing the global features, the big picture. The left hemisphere gets focused on little details, And if you study the patients with stroke, this is the right side. These are the lesions on the right side of the brain. And in this, they develop a deficit of the global features. They will draw all the details, the small dots or the cross, but they won't draw the big rectangle, or they will forget to notice the big square. You see? But if you go to the next slide, which is the left hemisphere, which is this left hemispheric damage, it creates a deficit of the small details. They will draw the big rectangle, the 5 squares, but they will forget the details, the dots or the cross and simple things. So these are two different specialized functions, but both hemispheres have to work together, and they are connected through a structure called corpus callosum. And one of the main features that they found in Albert Einstein's brain is that his corpus callosum was very thick and strong. There were great connections between the frontal lobes, parietal lobes, so they were all well connected. So similarly, there is another research work showing in creativity. Those who are creative, top 15% who are creative, and bottom 15% who are non-creative, the main difference was the connectivity between the frontal lobes and the parietal lobes. So that connectivity is so important. This is my last slide. I want to share with you, this is a beautiful picture of my wife and our grandson. They are both in the audience. And one day our grandson was visiting us, and we had received few seeds from one of these arboretum companies. So we mixed the seeds with some sand, and we had a patch of land. And Sunanda and Rohan, they decided to plant the seeds and water the seeds, and I just took a picture. But what a beautiful picture. This is what I call the joint attention, where the grandmother and grandson sowing the seeds of common values, purpose, goodness and love in life. Buddha, for example, emphasized these 4 values: friendliness, compassion, cheerfulness and equanimity. Friendliness is Maitri, compassion is Karuna, cheerfulness is Mudita, and equanimity is Upeksha. And these common values have been emphasized in most of the religions. And we all need to remind ourselves of that and live a life of goodness, beauty, and compassion with all of us together, accepting each other and working with each other with joint attention. With joint attention, we can achieve a lot. A lot of good work can be done with joint attention. Also, a lot of bad, evil work can be done with joint attention too. Unfortunately, we have a lot of examples of that, but we need to stay on the good side, as is emphasized in this fellowship. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If there is time, I can take few questions.
Yes. So we have plenty of time. We have plenty of time for comments, questions, clarifications. Yes.
Yes, Doctor. So many people in our society respect and we really revere science and scientists. And of course, they're based on the scientific method, causality, and when they have an experiment, it has to be proven again and again before the truth is accepted by the world of science. Are there other kinds of truths besides scientific truths in your experience?
No, I think science has to learn a lot. We all have to learn a lot. There is always more to learn. And unfortunately, until recently, science has been dominated by what is called reductionism or dualistic perspective. And René Descartes has been blamed for that. He created the division between the body and the mind, the physical and the psychological. He just divided it into two as if they can't be connected in some way at all. But now slowly the neuroscience is realizing and the quantum physics people are realizing that you cannot really isolate anything in this universe. You can't isolate an atom, you can't isolate an electron. One electron knows where the other electron is going. I mean, there is a sort of connectivity between at multiple levels, right from subatomic particles all the way to the human beings. So this connectivity, people are realizing. Other most important thing is science has been habituated to think in terms of cause and effect. And again, I will do this so I can make this effect. Sort of materialistic or machinistic approach, that I turn the wheel this way so the vehicle goes this way, which was okay for mechanistic things. But it doesn't work in life forms and living beings. In fact, what we are realizing, lot of the activity in the brain and mind is spontaneous. Brain, we wake up spontaneously. How do we wake up in the morning? Thank goodness we wake up every morning. But we wake up spontaneously because of the way the brain is connected and the way it is influenced by the circadian rhythms, solar, lunar, geomagnetic. All the influences are always there. And the cortisol level rises up and melatonin level goes down. All that is there. And there is complexity at multiple levels of organization. And each level has its own rules, has its own players, has its own. So science has to learn a lot and we have to appreciate a lot. And to realize this oneness of the whole existence, including us. Yes.
I want to see if I can ask this the right way to get your response, especially when you were talking about memory and how we build up, but we're right here now. And one of the things, and I don't really want to give too many examples, the idea that you learn something in the present time about your past, and some people think that that actually changes the past. And I claim that it doesn't. It changes your present thinking about the past. And this isn't my example, just to give you an example of someone else. I was really mad because a friend was waiting for his children to finish college. Then he was going to leave his wife and be with his young intern. And I was so mad when the person was telling me. I said, well, that ruins her whole life. Why did, He said, no, the wife was happy. The wife thought she had a good marriage. She was happy. It can't change her past experience. Mm-hmm. But, of course, it changes your present memory. And I'd like to hear you talk about that a bit.
Yes, that's a good point. And this happens all the time, that the past memories tend to intrude into the present all the time. Sometimes I call it, don't let yesterday's clouds block today's sunshine. We forget that. Other way around also, because what happens in the present moment, if we stay really busy in constructing a scenario which is different than the reality, then we have a memory of that constructed scenario, which is your own imagination. You think you are so beautiful and you are so intelligent and so smart, whatever. We construct our own, we constantly construct. But it's better if the construction is realistic. You see, unfortunately, it's not always realistic. And that's why we have false memories. And sometimes those false memories can be reinforced by others in your family or in your group, and you continue that false memory. It becomes part of you. So, in the absolute present moment, where we are all one, connected, there are no memories, there are no egos. That's the absolute state. But very few of us are there. We always carry that baggage with us, of the past as well as the imagined future.
I'm back here, way back here.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jerome.
I appreciate your talk. I gained a lot from it. I wanted to go back to your first question here about reductionism. And I guess my sense is that the criticism of reductionism is really inappropriate, because ultimately it's the same as what you were talking about, where you have, focus and then global awareness. And reductionism is necessary, but we also need people such as yourself who take the global view and then can integrate what we have learned through reductionism and look at the big picture. What does this mean? What can we draw from it? What can we not draw from it? Do you have any, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, you're perfectly correct. And we never need both. It's like trying to understand the big elephant. Because that story of 6 blind men, or women, trying to understand what an elephant is, and you touch the tail, somebody touches the leg, somebody touches the trunk and the tusk and all that. So reductionism is like a piece of the puzzle, small piece of the puzzle. And the holism or the holistic is the big picture. So unfortunately our brain and our capacity to understand the universal existence is very limited. We have a limited capacity to some extent, at least in terms of cognitive processing. So we have to select a small piece of the puzzle and do some research on it and come up with some new ideas and thoughts and all that. So we need reductionism to understand. But we also need to remember the big picture. It is the elephant we are dealing with, not the tusk or the tail. You see? So we need both. We need the holistic as well as the reductionistic approach. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I have recently had a chance to take a look at photographs and perhaps computer images, I'm not sure, of galaxy clusters, things that have become available to us from our exploration of space with various telescopes. I was so reminded by these images of cross-sections I had seen of the human brain, human kidneys. It led me to wonder and suspect whether the universe is indeed organic. And I wonder if you have an opinion on that and what you might base that opinion on.
Yeah, that's a very interesting observation. And we recently discovered some 6 or 7 new Earth-like planets, which is a big news. So it's a big mystery, it's an amazing thing. But somehow what is beautiful about it is that it works as a single system. The whole universe functions as a single system. Now, so in that sense it is organic. It functions like a single organism. Now whether you personify it or don't personify it is up to you. If you personify it, it becomes God or the divine or the sacred. If you don't personify it, you just accept it as a fact that this is a one integral reality or holistic reality that functions together as a single universal ecosystem or whatever quantum system you want to call that. Yes, sir.
Yes, actually, I kind of want to bring up the issues of climate change, sea level rising. The kind of work I do, I work with, in disasters. Some do a lot of studying about sea surge and climate change and everything. What's very upsetting in the current prevailing environment is how their scientists are saying this, but then how politically it can just be, it's all a hoax and waved off. And that separation, that polarization between the scientific view and the investigation, the background that scientists have, can just be thrown out the window. And so what's happening now is, major thing. Just say the EPA or whatever is just taken over by some person who's totally against that idea. Could you just give some comments about that? 'Cause I find it very depressing.
Yeah.
But thanks.
I think we have to use both science as well as our heart. We have to use the brain as well as the heart. And the science is important, because science, that's how we make progress. That's how we understand things better. That's how we understood that the earth is round, that the earth is going around the sun, not the sun going around the earth, and all these sort of things, or the flat earth phenomenon, or the concept of evolution. So we understand science is essential, and we have to be guided by science. At the same time, we have to use our heart to see what is good for all of us, not just one person or one group or one party or one religion or one, we have to think of humanity as a whole. We have to think of planet Earth as a whole. Because it all works, even the planet Earth acts like a single organism. Everything is connected. I just saw, I think yesterday or this morning on Facebook, that the nuclear accident we had in Japan, that nuclear activity has spread to almost 1/3 of the Pacific Ocean. So if you have a disastrous accident like that, it affects all of us. Once the ocean is affected or the atmosphere is affected, look at in China, what is happening with the pollution in China. I mean, all these, we need to work together to prevent these disasters and use our intelligence and heart to do what is good and the right thing for all of us. Yes.
Hello, sir. Thank you for your talk. I want to pick your brain for a minute. It was very enlightening. How would you vote on the following issue of you mentioned that it was the ventral tegmentum that was responsible for I think you said norepinephrine. I might have heard you wrong. But what about the nucleus accumbens in that process in the thalamus? That's question A. Question B might be something like, do you believe the real-time imaging of the thalamic hypersynapticity due to PTSD and the hippocampal shrinkage due to Alzheimer's? And a fourth issue would be stroke. And do you believe in what we got down here in Florida, the hyperbaric treatment that can reverse it, because not as many neurons are damaged in stroke as people have traditionally thought? What are about these specific, I'm sorry I'm not so global and philosophical as other questions, but I'd just like to get your vote on these four issues.
Yeah, you touched on multiple things, but you need, of course, all the different neurons. It is not just norepinephrine. It is norepinephrine, adrenaline, serotonin, dopamine, and of course nucleus accumbens has to do with dopamine. It's part of the pleasure system for dopaminergic neurons. In fact, myself and my wife, we wrote an article about the stress adaptation failure hypothesis of Alzheimer's disease. We published this in 1995, where we proposed that excessive unresolved stress with excessive levels of cortisol. This excessive level of cortisol then affects the glucocorticoid sensitive neurons in the hippocampus, and it damages and degenerates it and causes the memory problem. This we published it at that time, and now everybody agrees to that. I mean, that's one of the mechanisms of memory failure. I agree about dynamic imaging and all. And strokes again is a big field. Whatever neurons we can save as quickly as we can, the better it is, of course. Yeah. I don't have much experience about hyperbaric oxygen, but again, it's a question of research. We don't want to. We had a lot of snake oil. I remember I had patients with MS who used to go to South Florida for the snake oil. Miami had this, all this. So the more we learn by science, and more rational we can be. So it's good to be rational at the same time compassionate. Both. We need both. Thank you. I think there is one more question here.
The memory is very important for us. And also the loop that we go through, as you showed on your diagram. And the moment that we would want to go back to a particular spot that where only the sun is shining, a solar meditative spot. How do we do that? I am a Buddhist and am very much into meditation, but sometimes it is totally impossible to get into it. I don't know why this is. Also, my memory is failing more and more since I'm getting older. There's that's another thing. How can I make that functioning better? So those two things are very important to me. But it is personal, not so global as all the other questions. It's more personal. Thank you, if you can answer that.
Well, I can give you a personal answer. My memory is not as good as it was before. And some of the impairment of memory can be part of normal aging. I'll be 80 next year, so that's part of normal aging. You have to accept that. Because a lot of memory depends on how often you repeat certain facts, certain things. So names of certain drugs, people, events. Because especially after retirement, you may notice that whatever you knew when you were practicing, half of it is forgotten because you are not using it every day. You are not reading about it, thinking about it, applying it, that sort of thing. So don't get too worked up, But talk to your friends. Make sure you talk to one friend every day. So they will point out whether you are on the right track. So that.
How about getting into this place where meditation is important?
Yes, that is very important. And the point is we need both. It's not just one or the other. We need good attention, good memory, good thinking, problem solving, creativity, all that is important. But we also need to get back to the baseline, get back to the common ground, because that is the eternal wealth, the spring within, that is always there, eternal source of energy, awareness and being within us. So we need to get back to the source, but come out again and interact. So it's a process of both what I call the river and lake. In fact, I wrote a poem about it, and I'm going to donate 4 of my poetry books to your fellowship so that you can read. It's called River and Lake. So we need to use both skills to flow with the mental events and come up with something good and creative and solve problems. At the same time, come back to the baseline, the ground, common ground, and be at the source and get replenished. You see?
But how can we stop the monkey jumping so we can get to that spot?
So you just have to watch the monkey jumping. And then you realize that the monkey slows down. If you don't pay too much attention to the monkey, it slows down because it is the attention that gives it the energy. The more you talk about it, the more you think about it, the more you recall, that is the energy you are giving. So it is that attentional energy that you need to watch what you are paying attention to. And just have a sort of witness attitude. Just watch the monkey, see how your mind is wandering from this to that to that. But as you watch, your mind becomes quieter because now you are not going with all that monkey business.
Well, thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Deshmukh.